had an opinion that went against the narrative.
And whatever they're saying in the West is nonsense, quite frankly. Because what is happening right now is what everybody realized was going to happen 6 months ago, 5.5 months ago, when this special military operation started, which is that Russia is winning. It's definitively winning. It is the victory on the part of the Russians is overwhelming. And the people who are bleeding that the Russians are losing, that it's a static war and whatnot, they simply don't want to see reality.
And that's why I went to prison.
I've taken a beating in my time, so sure, it hurt like hell, but it was manageable. But then, at one point, 2 thugs held my head and used a toothpick to scratch the whites of my left eye, while asking me if I could still read if I had just one. I got a cracked rib in my first cell, but it wasn't too bad. The worst stretch was in my 4th cell. From 1 p.m. on June the 21st until 7 p.m. the next day, 30 hours, I was beaten and sleep deprived, my arms twisted the wrong way around at the shoulders, and generally beaten pretty bad.
And that's why, if I'm arrested again, I will die in prison.
Chilean-American journalist Gonzalo Lira has reportedly died in prison in Ukraine at the age of 55. U.S. journalists cited Lira's father, who believes his son was tortured to death over his criticism of Vladimir Zelensky.
I was very upset to learn that Gonzalo Lira was tortured to death as a political prisoner by the government of Ukraine. I was able to interview him a few times, so were some of our other crew. He seemed like an interesting journalist on the ground, giving a different perspective than what we were all being force-fed at the time. And, of course, we saw the footage of men with machine guns taking him out of his apartment, disappearing him, now over a year ago. And we learned that he died in their custody. They would not give him treatment for double pneumonia and just basically tortured him to death. Imagine if the Russians had a journalist and a U.S. citizen and were holding him and they died in custody. It would be international scandal. There'd be major sanctions. But in the last year plus, his family and others have gone to the State Department and they just said, we're not doing anything. So they won't stand up for U.S. citizens, even as we send over $100 billion to Ukraine. And now Zelensky tells us he wants U.S. troops there on the ground, which is World War III. This is outrageous and it's disgusting. And while our veterans sleep on the street and while our border totally collapses, we pay billions of dollars to secure much of the Ukrainian border.
We know our future is bound to yours. Let me repeat that again. We know our future is bound to yours.
The goal of the present war against Ukraine is to turn our land, our people, our lives, our resources into a weapon against you.
$1.85 billion package of security assistance that includes both direct transfers of equipment that Ukraine needs, as well as contracts to supply ammunition Ukraine will need in the months ahead for its artillery, its tanks, and its rocket launchers.
Mr. President, would you call the situation on the southern border a crisis?
No, but I would say would react. I've been pushing them, my Republican colleagues, since I got in office.
Fox News, AP, they're all reporting it. Sweden's defense minister warning to brace for war with Russia, sends public into panic. Lines grabbing food, gasoline, emergency supplies. NATO and Sweden have been saying this for weeks. Russia has laughed and said that's insane. We have no intention of invading or attacking Sweden. Obviously, Sweden borders areas close to Russia. They've said that because of NATO's aggressive stance, they may have to beef up troops, but that they know attacking Sweden would lead to nuclear war. They have no intention of doing that, but it doesn't matter. It's all over the news that the Russians, with no evidence, are going to attack Sweden. This is a major escalation. Germany ponders banning its second most popular political party. Banning of parties and candidates happening everywhere in the West now, a classic sign of incredible totalitarianism.
I won't let myself be insulted as being a Nazi because I'm sympathising with the AfD. For me, the AfD is the only party representing our constitutional rights and freedom of opinion.
The UN has put out new reports saying uncharted territory, doom and total destruction. We don't hand total control over to them. They say starvation and mass death, but they're doing it by cutting off the energy, the fertilizer, the fuel to the tractors that till the fields. You have lived to see it. We are inside the New World Order BlackRock Rothschild takeover.
Many Bothans died to bring us this information. You can see here the Great Awakening orbiting the Great Reset. Although the depopulation systems of the Great Reset are not yet fully operational, the Great Reset does have a strong conspiracy network. It is protected by a satanic shield, which can be disabled by the Great Awakening. The Great Reset must be deactivated if any victory for humanity is to be accomplished. Once the Great Awakening deactivates the shield, Infowars.com/show will cover the truth, while InfoWarriors fly into the superstructure and attempt to knock out the Great Reset. Alex Jones has volunteered to lead the fighter attack. Get a signed copy of the Great Awakening today at InfoWarsStore.com.